The Zealots. As Jesus grew older, his personality unfolded, and his talents were perceived by his fellow villagers. From the time he had taken the place of his father Joseph, his voice counted in the community. Even though he was very young at the time, his opinion was often sought, and his attitude and voice could express seriousness and authority at important moments. He was loved in the community, and he had a positive influence. Many adults listened to his counsel. Several times a year Jesus preached in the synagogue on the Sabbath. He would read a portion of Scripture and sometimes comment on the reading, but he usually chose the Scriptures in such a way that commentary was not necessary. He was knowledgeable and read the various Scripture passages in such an order that they clarified each other. In Jesus' later teenage years, social sentiment was changing in Judea and Galilee. The tax burden was high, and discontent was widespread. This caused unrest, and there were whispers of revolt against the Roman yoke. This resentment organized itself into a movement of nationalists called the Zealots. Unlike the Pharisees, the Zealots had no intention of waiting for the coming of the Messiah. They were ready to take up arms and lurked for an opportune moment. In the life of Jesus, this had already happened twice. The first time was during the power vacuum created when Herod the Great died, and there was no clarity as to which of his sons would inherit his throne. The second time was after Herod Archelaus was deposed by the emperor, and Judea became a Roman province. The new Roman governor Coponius ordered a census to be taken in order to collect taxes efficiently, and this angered the Jews, causing prolonged unrest, primarily instigated by the Zealots. Both times the Romans had acted excessively harshly. The last time, even in retaliation and revenge, they destroyed Sepphoris, the capital of Galilee, and executed or enslaved many of its inhabitants. Even though the Zealots had taken great losses over the years, they were still well organized and had their tentacles in Nazareth. An uncle of Jesus, Simon, the brother of his mother Mary, was a staunchly active member and had secretly begun to train a zealot cell in Nazareth. He was looking for a leader and believed he saw in Jesus a great talent. He and several more prominent zealots came to see Jesus. Jesus listened to them attentively and asked questions, but he refused to join them. He did not want to reveal all of his reasons for not wanting to join, and his refusal resulted in more young men in Nazareth likewise remaining aloof. His mother Mary, who believed that Jesus would become the Jewish Messiah, saw in the zealot movement the vehicle to get her son on David's throne. She, therefore, did her utmost to persuade her eldest son to join the zealots, but she could not make Jesus change his position. In her desperation, Mary even went so far as to tell Jesus that his refusal constituted disobedience and that he should be submissive to his parents. In response to this veiled allusion, he only kindly laid his hand on her shoulder, looked her in the eye, and said, "Mother, how can you say that?" Mary therefore retracted her words. A few weeks later, the zealots tried again. This time, all sorts of things had been arranged for him behind his back. Not only his uncle, but also his mother and his brother James, were in on the plot. It was thought that the unspoken reason for Jesus not joining the zealots was that he would not have time to support the family. But they needed him. His talent for leadership and his natural influence had been recognized. And the new chapter of the Zealots in Nazareth was looking for a leader. They made the offer to financially support Jesus' family, if he would put aside his tools and accept leadership of the Zealots in Nazareth. Mary's brother knew that Jesus was a key figure in the community. If he joined, then many more young men would be expected to join as well. In the entire young life of Jesus, this was the very first time he had resorted to a public strategy. So far, he had been able to clear up all situations with a forthright statement of the truth. But now he could not speak the full truth. He could not hint that he was more than just a human being. He could not reveal his mission that awaited him. Now his religious and national loyalty was directly appealed to. His family was upset, his youthful friends were divided, and to think that his neutrality was the cause of this. It had never been his intention to cause difficulties, but they arose naturally. Something had to be done. He had to make his position clear, and he did this bravely in the follow-up conversation. The night before, he had gone to his old teacher at the synagogue school, who had given him advice regarding his response to the committee of zealots. Jesus remained diplomatic to the satisfaction of many, but not all. He stuck to the terms of his first defense, insisting that his first obligation was to his own family. A family consisting of a widow with many young children still needed something other than the things that money could buy. They were entitled to the care and guidance of a father-brother, and he could not with a clear conscience evade the obligations with which a fatal accident had suddenly saddled him. He expressed gratitude to his mother and eldest brother for their willingness to let him go, but he reiterated that his loyalty to his late father would not allow him to leave his family. No matter how much money would be paid to support them materially, making his never-to-be-forgotten statement that money cannot love. Everyone in Nazareth knew that he had taken on the father role superbly, and this was a core value dear to every right-thinking Jew. Then his brother James came forward and gave a short speech. Jesus was surprised because he did not know that his old teacher had secretly spoken to James a few hours earlier. James declared that he was sure Jesus would help deliver his people anytime he would be old enough to assume family responsibility. And that if they could agree to leave Jesus, with us, to be our father and teacher, in that case, you will have not just one leader from Joseph's family, but in a short time 5 loyal nationalists. For are there not 5 boys with us who will grow up under the leadership of our brother father and will step in to serve our people? And so the boy brought this tense situation to a rather happy conclusion. The crisis was over for now, but this incident was never forgotten in Nazareth. The agitation continued. Jesus was no longer in everyone's favor, and this would never completely go away. Because of his refusal, some relatives on his mother's side broke all contact with them. This fact, combined with later events, was one of the main reasons why he moved to Capernaum in later years. The revolt failed to materialize, but under the surface, frustrations continued to mount. Until in the year 66, the Great Revolt broke out, and the Jews succeeded in driving out the Romans. But Rome retaliated, and in the year 70, they destroyed Jerusalem, ending the Jewish autonomy and the beginning of their dispersion throughout the world.